Did you pass the garage sale?
Norman wants to know if y'all passed the big garage sale.
I didn't see. Oh,
Which way do you come in?
I saw a sign. We come in and we go to the right. I saw a sign, but I didn't see the address.
No.
This one is if you turn off of this street.
Norma can't stand to pass the garage sale like me. If Carl would have been there, he'd already went in there.
I was going to tell you, that's where if they come in late.
That's where they're at.
Hey, Debbie, good to see you here today. Appreciate you. All right, we're going to go ahead and start. We have our 2 or 3 gathered together, so that's all we need. You ever heard that verse? Yeah, I'm going to have to do a metaphysical understanding of that. But I think it means I exist is there. But I exist is there even when you're by yourself. So, all right, we're continuing our study on the book of John. Hi, Kathy. I started chapter 15 today. I was looking at my notes yesterday, or what I type on, and I actually have 443 pages, and 8.5 by 11. So I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and publish the first version of John, and then I'll do the next one later on. Because if I do it all together,
as long as you're not doing it all today.
No, but I'm going to publish it today. But because if I wait and do the whole thing, it'll be like an 800-page book, and I don't think too many people would buy an 800-page book. So, yeah. So we're in John chapter 15, verse 1 through 2, starting out today. Just kind of highlight where we've been, just in case there's somebody new watching. Hi, George. We've been in, probably about 3-4 weeks ago, we started at what they call it, the Last Supper. And literally it was not about a Last Supper. It wasn't just bread and wine there. They were having dinner together. That's all it was. And we saw where his washing their feet was he was washing their awareness. And how he was doing that is, and I'm not saying it didn't literally happen, but the conversation that went on, he was cleansing them of their awareness. And Peter, when he talked about him, Peter said, I don't want you to wash my feet, because it's a very humbling thing to have somebody wash their feet. He didn't think he was worthy. And Jesus said, Jesus told him that you are already clean, because he said, well, wash my whole being. So in other words, Jesus was saying, you're already clean. You're already holy. And I wish I would have heard that from my teachers a long time ago, that you're already holy, but your awareness needs to be washed and clean with the logos of the word. So what he was doing is the time was coming when the Romans were going to come take him. Judas was going to betray him. And it would be the last time to get to teach them before he actually went to the cross. So he was doing that. He was discussing these spiritual truths with them. And then he said, let's get up and go. And they began to take off on a walk. I call it a walkabout. And so the disciples and also women were there too, because he had women that were disciples also. They weren't necessarily listed in the Bible, but Mary Magdalene was with them, another Mary, several women were with him, and they followed him everywhere he went. So he didn't have just the guys. And a disciple is somebody that's a student. Basically, that's what it is. And if you haven't seen me post this on Facebook, I'm writing a book on the genealogy from Jesus all the way back to Elohim. And that's what the word really is. Instead of God, it's Elohim, Ruach, breath. They use God in the whole first part of the book of Genesis, the first 7 in the second chapter. But when you look it up, it says Elohim, Ruach, breath. And so it's not a God like we were taught. But I just lost track of what I was going to say. Got to preach. Oh, I'm doing that genealogy, but Father just really prompted me. I'm also doing their wives, because the Bible doesn't say much about women. And so I couldn't find it in the Bible, not very many of them, but I found an ancient book from about the 1400s, and it shows all their wives and their meanings of their names. And what's so cool, when you look at the metaphysical understanding of the man's name, the wife comes along, and what her name means complements the man, and they both function together as one. So it shows the female, male, what do you call it, feminine masculine part of it. So I'm very excited about it. And I also did a really big study Thursday on whether Mary Magdalene was married to Jesus. And it's very interesting what it shows how the Catholic Church destroyed the feminine part. And very highly likely she could have been. There was no reason why he couldn't be married. He was a man. He had male hormones just like we did, men do. And he lived for 33 and a half years. There's no reason why he couldn't have been married. So some people don't like that because they think he was too holy. Well, I don't know how anybody can be too holy to be married whatsoever. So it's going to be a good study. So let's start here. John 15:1. I am the true vine, and my Father, and this is the King James version of it. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So in the correct rendering of that, when I looked it up in the Greek words, it actually says, I exist as the vine of the truthful one, Father, my source. That's all it says right there. I exist as the vine of the truthful one, our Father, if you want to say it, but it's actually Elohim Ruach, breath. And so the word vine here is a climbing plant or whatever, but metaphysically it speaks of the Logos life stream that's within each and every one of us. And the Logos is what? The creative spiritual activity that reveals the spiritual law of abundant life. And the true, when Jesus said the truth will make you free, this is talking about this authentic life of spirit contrasted with the limitation of religion. The limitation of religion gives us a concealed word, right? And it's not necessary that they're purposely doing it. It's just that they believe their Bibles is the inspired word of God. They believe their religious beliefs are the only true religious beliefs, so they conceal the Logos of the word. I was never taught about the creative spiritual activity of the law of abundant life that's inside of me. Were you? I don't know any person that has. So in the past. So husbandman is one who tends, or his father as the tender of awareness. So the Logos, the Ruach, the breath of life is what's supposed to tend our awareness. And that's why we always say we need to lean to our divine mind, because the divine mind is the same thing. And then it goes on and on with branch and other ones. I won't do the rest of that. But the purging, particularly the purges, where it says it means to refine, or it means to clean, and not clean you as you're a bad person, but to clean our awareness. And we have all needed that all of our life. So Jesus speaks here as the embodiment of the Logos, the inner vine of life that flows through all creation. And the vine represents visible breath that we are. So we are the vine, and we draw forth from the Logos of the word, from the life, and it flows through us. And so the vine represents this visible breath that is a sustaining essence that lives within inside of us and every part of us. And it's moving forth in expression. So the branches then are us individualized. In other words, visible, if you would. And we're visible with that very same life. So on this day, the majority were not in contact with the divine mind. They didn't know there was a divine mind. They didn't know there was a source of life. All they knew, there was a God out there somewhere that they needed to obey. So therefore, Jesus was their vine teacher, and they were the branch students. Does that make sense? So he was saying, I am your teacher, and you are my students. It makes a lot more sense to me. And so the Father, as the husbandman, is not a judge with pruning shears of punishment, but the divine cultivator, if you would, of this that tends to our awareness. And if you need your awareness corrected, we always say go within. And what do we mean by go within? Go within to your divine mind. Go within to that calm, quiet voice that you can hear, that can help you. So the branches that bear no fruit are those areas of awareness that are still rooted in fruit and separation and condemnation and past things that always make you feel less than. That's what that is. Because,
Do you need something to drink?
huh?
Do you need something to drink?
It just does it when I start talking. I don't know why. I wouldn't have any place to sit anyways, but thank you. So, what is the fruit of of our breath. Elohim, Ruach, breath. We used to say spirit. What is the fruit?
The vision.
Huh?
It's the vision of the.
The fruit.
Right.
The fruit is love.
Yes.
Yeah, the fruit of the Spirit, the Bible says the fruit of the Spirit is love. So this pruning is pruning away everything that's not love, that's not reflective of love. And it's a gentle trimming away. It's not something that's hard, but it trims away the limiting beliefs that we think we're limited. You know, like I can't do anything, I can't be like Jesus was, or, you know, whatever it is. Ego, if you would, motives, it trims that away. It trims away distractions that hinder us, if you would, so that the flow of the Logos can increase and flow through us. Just like a nice plant out there. I tried to do it this year, but it got a little too hot for me. But I was studying tomato plants and how to get them to produce and how to get them to grow. And it talked about trimming away the sucker branches in between them. Those little branches that grow between, those are sucker branches, and they do not produce anything, but they draw life away from the rest of the plant. Also, the part of the plant that was turning brown, it's still sucking life away. Trim it away. I mean, it's a real good picture of these spiritual truths here. And when I did that, my plants were prettier and greener. And, you know, so it's important to trim things like that. And that's what our job is to allow the very Spirit of God, the breath of God, to trim those things away. You know, a lot of people say, I don't know why I do these things. I don't know why I act this way. Well, we really do. There's some sucker branches in it somewhere that's just sucking life away. I remember back in probably around 1988, somewhere at Full Gospel Assembly, there was a man that came down that needed prayer. And I wasn't some kind of prophetic person or really giant spiritual person or whatever, but I shut my eyes and I saw all these tubes attached to him all over, and I just heard slice them off, just like that. And that was very strange to me. But I did it. I said, you're going to think this is weird, but I'm going to do what I hear Father tell me to do, or God, that's what I said back then. And I said, I'm slicing off these things that's sucking life out of you. And he just began to weep and began to cry. And literally, he was broken in all of that. And so that was just a physical picture for him, that we can free that stuff from us, and it doesn't have to bind us anymore. And so when we begin to bear fruit, then love and joy and peace and understanding comes to us. And when we express love and joy and peace, it purges the rest of that. Because when you love people, you won't be involved, you won't be egoic, if you would. When you love people, you're going to love all people. You're not going to resist them. All these things that tend to hinder us fall away because love conquers everything, right? Yes. So Jesus begins this chapter by revealing a deep truth. I exist as a vine, or I exist as a truthful one. I exist as a teacher. So he's not speaking of himself alone, but he embodies this nature. He embodies the spiritual bloodstream of all life formation. Every living being is connected to the vine, or connected to the vine, or the truthful one, because we have that within inside of us. We don't have Jesus in us, but we have the very same mind that Jesus had. We have the same awareness, the ability to have the very same awareness that Jesus had. And so Father is the husbandman, and Father, or breath, or whatever, cultivates the vineyard of our awareness. And religion has painted the husband as a harsh disciplinarian, as a harsh God that's going to do something to you. And so in a sense, we were always afraid of God, the kind of God that they put out there. And so we don't need to do that. So it teaches us that Father accepts us, and Father is literally the creative spiritual activity that reveals the spiritual law of abundant life. Father is the one that's in the eke of the ecclesia. And so every branch is precious then. And every pruning is an act of love. You know, when I went out there and took care of those plants, you know, I talk to my plants. I hope my neighbors don't see me do that. But I'm kidding you, but I do. I talk to my plants. I tell them they're beautiful, and I speak to them, and I believe all life needs to be encouraged. Now, do they hear me? I don't know. But I have literally seen videos where they did studies and they would have one garden here and one garden here. They spoke to this garden all the time, blessed it, told them they loved it, did the same pruning, but they didn't talk to it, and this garden flourished much more than that garden. There's a lot of truth in that. All right, John 15, 3 through 5. Already you are clean. You know, this is my translation, but this is what he said. Already you are clean through the creative spiritual movement and action words, which I have spoken unto you. Stay in a relation of rest. That means abide. That's where abide comes from. Stay in a relation of rest with me, and I will with you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can you, except you stay at rest with me and learn of what I teach you. Now, this isn't telling us that we have to follow Jesus. We don't have to follow Jesus. We follow Jesus' teachings. We listen to Jesus. We don't pray to Jesus. Jesus is not here right now with us. But the I exist of Jesus is, because it's the same. We're all one. So he says, I exist, your teacher. He's talking to these people. I'm your vine. You're my student, the branches. That they that stay with me and I with them, the same brings forth much fruit. For without attentively hearing me, you can understand nothing. I left something out there. Without attentively hearing me, you cannot understand anything. Donna, draw a circle around that so I can correct that in my book.
What?
The last part of that verse,
The whole thing?
where it says, can understand nothing. You need me to read that again? Does that make sense? So that is important to hear that way, because when you hear abide with me, and those are more verses trying to point Jesus to being God, and we have to stay with God. And people are so loyal to Jesus today that they won't hear any truth whatsoever. And we were not taught to do that. So already you are clean through these words. He said, because of these words I've spoken to you, not that the words are making you clean, but you understanding these words that I've taught you, that you've always been one with Father. So clean refers not to moral purity, but it's clarity of awareness. I do believe the disciples learned a lot more while he was walking with them than what the Bible reveals to us. And of course, when he came back, and in the book of Acts it records it, I believe they learned a lot more. But clean refers to your awareness. It refers to your perception. So literally, if you look at somebody and perceive them to be bad, then your perception is not clean, right? And that's why this awareness has to change. And that's why Jesus was changing their awareness about who they thought Father was, their view of Father, and changing what they felt like the view of Father or breath or Ruach was toward them. Because religion teaches you that Father does not see you perfect. So the Logos sweeps that confusion completely away. Stay in a relation of rest with me and I will with you. That's union. That's where union is maintained, not through effort, but through rest. In the book of Hebrews, the writer of the book of Hebrews, speaking for Father, said, surely there will be a people that will enter into my rest. You ever heard that quoted before? And sometimes we just didn't know what that meant. But that rest is that's a oneness. When I know I'm one, I talk about this all the time. You guys, I consider you family, so I would have no problem with you walking into my kitchen and open the refrigerator and getting what you want. You won't have to say, may I use your restroom? You can just walk into the restroom. If you want to look in one of our rooms, I don't care, because we are at rest with each other. We're not strangers, if you would. But when we didn't know who Father really was, in a sense, we were strangers. We were estranged, and we were alienated. The Bible says we were alienated from God, but it said in our minds. And actually that word minds was awareness. We thought we were alienated with Father because of what they told us. So rest is receptivity. Rest is awareness ceasing its anxious motion and abiding in this rhythm and dance that I teach about. The branch does not struggle to draw life from the vine. We just sit and we listen and we're quiet and we know that we're one with Father and we know that we can hear anything that we need. And I don't say this braggingly, but I am to the place today that I can sit in my office and say, I need to know this, and it's revealed to me. I'm not saying I know everything there is. I do know everything. I'm not aware of everything. We all know everything. The Bible says that, but I'm not aware. But my awareness now is getting more and more in tune with Father. And when I need to know something, I hear it in my thoughts, or I can find it. I can find it on the internet. I love the internet. I'm not against the internet whatsoever. It's open realms of understanding to us. It's been there. And guess who's hidden it? Religiosity. It's been hidden from us. So the branch does not struggle to draw life from the vine. It simply abides. It receives. So must rest in its inner flow with the same thing. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm trying to do things in and of myself, in my own ways, in my own understanding, it doesn't bear a lot of fruit. And I have to tell you, a lot of people in religiosity say they love you, but a lot of times you don't see it. And I think that religious teaching robs people of agape love, because their agape love is God loves you, but you have to confess Jesus Christ as Lord of your life. But you have to pay tithe. But you have to serve in the church. That's not agape love. And so religious teaching does not produce love. You may say I love, but your actions don't necessarily show it. And it's not that I see your actions, but it's what you're thinking right up here, right? And if you're thinking anything bad about people, that's not love. So the fruit is the visible expression of this inner union, and it cannot and never will come from self-effort. I can't make myself love somebody. I have to love some people. I can't just say, well, I choose to love that person. No, you don't have to choose to love them. You love everybody. You live, like I like to say, you live your life in love. Religion tries to manufacture holiness, but the fruit of Logos grows naturally when we understand our union with Father. So I exist your teacher, he said, and you're my students. This is not hierarchy, it's relationship. It's relationship. The vine and the branch are one continuous life stream, and Jesus, the Logos teacher, presents this pattern in this full communion with the source. And so we say that they were serving communion at the Last Supper. No, it was conversation that was going on. Again, it wasn't bread and wine. And that it wasn't about bread and wine. And that will really upset redemptive work people, because they believe the bread and the wine represents Jesus' flesh and the blood and all that. And they believe that's what that whole thing was about. And that then we had to start doing it every time we come to church or whatever, taking communion. It wasn't. The food was the Logos. That's the food that we need, not physical food. So, for without attentively hearing then, you can understand nothing. This doesn't mean on depending on personalities, but continually hearing the voice of breath. And that's why I say all the time, if you, like me, years ago, Donna would always saying, God said this, God said that, God said this, and I would get really upset because I'm the minister, I'm the associate pastor, and I didn't hear like she did. But she did something I didn't do. She got in the closet and got calm and quiet. She spent much time not just praying for people, but she would be calm and she'd be quiet. And when you get that way, that's when you can hear the breath speak to you. Y'all know that you experience that all the time, don't you? So in these verses, Jesus explains how Logos life flows. The disciples were born holy, and so were you. And hi, Theta. It was their awareness that had been clarified by the spiritual movement and action. That's what people need. They don't need to be more faithful. They don't need to, yes, if I love the church, I would just like to find one that teaches truth. But what they need is they need their awareness clarified. This Logos speech, it transforms us, not transforming into who I am, because I already am who I am, but it transforms my awareness. When Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration, he wasn't transfiguring to something he wasn't already was. He was transforming Moses' and Elijah's awareness and the disciples. He enabled them to be able to see the very glory, the very doxa, the very weight of God in him, and them too. So then he called them to stay in relationship of rest. And this is the greater work that we can do. It's what, he said, you will do greater works than me. This is one of the greatest work that we can ever do is enter into rest. Without rest, you can't do nothing. Even in this world. Sometimes you'll go to the doctors. I've been to a doctor before recently. He asked me, am I getting enough rest? And I laughed at him. I said, what? I sleep almost 12 hours a day. He laughed. But the rest that we need is the rest right up here. The rest of our thoughts. To free us from anything that hinders us, our dreams sometimes, or what we think when we lay down and go to bed. Sometimes when you get in bed, all of a sudden some thoughts start coming to you, right? Does it happen? They're not expedient, and they're not worth thinking on. So you just don't beat yourself up. You just immediately say, that's not who I am, or that's not true, if it's fear or whatever, and replace it with the truth and say, I will go to sleep calmly, and I'm resting in the very breath of my Father. And you just practice that. So rest does not mean inactivity, though. It means no longer striving from separation thinking. That's what it really is. So when awareness ceases from effort and abides on the Logos fruit, it begins to appear without struggle. The struggle and the hard labor and trying to please God, trying to please the church, trying to please anybody, that goes away. But the branch, though, is not independent, though, of the vine. We have to make sure we're still staying in contact with Source, and we're always hearing Source speak to us. Mm-hmm. The same sap, if you would, or the divine energy flows through both. And the fruit is the proof of interconnection. And again, I believe love is one of the greatest proofs there is. If you're not loving people, then you're disconnected, or you have some sucker vibes, you have some false beliefs, you have some doubt, you have some fear, or whatever it is that's always trying to suck that life away from you. Yeah. But Paul wrote, without love, we're just loud noise like a clanging cymbal. Yeah. And when I looked it up, clanging, it says hollow. There's nothing there. It's like the Bible talks about those clouds without rain. Well, clouds represent teachers. The rain represents the Logos teaching. They look beautiful. They look wonderful, but there's really nothing coming out of them that's edifying. Now, yeah, it makes you feel good sometimes. Huh?
The natural beauty of it.
Yeah, the beauty of it's not there. So when he says, I exist, your teacher, he identifies himself as the pattern of awakened awareness, not only divine, but to them. This actual demonstration of the vine and branch relationship is one. And who is our teacher? I'm your visible teacher here right now. But the Elohim, when you look at the word God, it says Elohim, and you study it out again, then it says Ruach, which we always taught with spirit, but it's actually breath. So literally in all my writings now, I'm saying Elohim, Ruach, breath. That's what we receive from, and it's powerful. So without hearing, it reminds us that understanding flows through inner listening. The fruit we bear is directly related to our attentiveness to the word. I've shared this a lot, particularly with a lot of preachers. The word obey does not mean obey like I tell you to do something, you must do it. The word obey means attentively listen. Because if you listen, you're going to hear what was said. If you don't listen, then you're going to only hear what you think was said. I've had sometimes people tell me that they heard me say something when I'm teaching, and I didn't say that at all. Now, sometimes it's a good thing. It's something that Spirit was ministering to them. But I have heard people say things like that. So it's important for us to hear. And so hearing is the first act of abiding. You can't rest without hearing. You guys just heard me. You're welcome anywhere in my house. If you didn't, the proof of you not doing it is say, Roy, could I get something out of your refrigerator? Well, what do you mean? Didn't you just hear what I said? You can walk in there anytime you want. Now stay out of my safe though. There's nothing in there. So, yeah, we can't even get it open. I can't. I know the combination. It just won't work. But we'll get it done. So, do not strive to produce means abide, and fruit will come. If you just rest, the fruit will come. Jesus said, consider the lilies of the field. They don't toss, they don't twirl, they just draw from the soil within and they grow beautiful. You know, and I've always thought about this. Sometimes people, if you plant something and you don't see it's growing and you go out there and you dig it up and look and see if something's wrong, you put it back in there and it's still not growing and you dig it up and see that's to me kind of like what religious counseling does. Mm-hmm. It's always digging into your past constantly. I'm not saying you should never have to do that, but sometimes that's all they do is they dig into your past and try to figure out what you're doing wrong. If this isn't working and you're not doing right, like I lost my job. Well, have you been paying your tithe? You know, or because they've taught that if you don't pay your tithe, you got to get it some way. And I've heard terrible teachings on that. But it's everything you do, and I'm speaking to ministers, everything you do should bring people to perfect rest with Ruach, Elohim Ruach breath. And they need to rest. They need to not be afraid. So we keep this inner voice open. And when we do, understanding will rise like the morning light. It'll just automatically happen. And Jesus said, without resting in this hearing, you can't understand nothing. But in hearing, all is revealed. Amen? Okay, John 15, 6 through 7. If one does not stay at rest with me and learn of what I teach, symbolically he or she is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire of the Logos, and their false awareness is burned away. If you stay at rest with me and learn what I teach you, and my Elohim Ruach breath, breathed words abide in you, you can ask to know anything, and it will be revealed to you. Now, in the King James, it says, ask, and it will be given to you. And so all of our life as Christians, we've asked God to do stuff for us. We've asked Jesus to do stuff for us. And I have to tell you, very little things that I have asked for showed up. Now, I'm not saying sometime I may not have tapped in and I've received. I do believe Elohim Ruach breath meets us where we're at. And I'll always remember when me and Donna needed to sell some land to be able to pay our taxes. And we didn't know that you could pay them out and pay the rest of your life. But we had $5,000 due in about 2 weeks. And we had property that we were going to sell, some land, and it wasn't selling. And so Don and I we prayed one night, Lord, we don't know what to do, help us. And all of a sudden, the breath of God began to speak through Donna. I'll never forget it. And she said, have I not always, been there for you? And it went on and on. I wish we would have wrote it down. So that was a Saturday night. Sunday morning, we come home, and on our answer machine on our phone, there was a call, and this person said, we've been trying to reach you for several weeks. I don't know why it wasn't on there, but we want to buy your your land. And I called them, and we did a quick closing. They paid cash, and we sold it with just before the 15th when you have to pay your taxes, and we were able to pay it. So we tapped in, but we wasn't always living that way, because asking for things, again, is proof that you don't realize that you have that already. So what I do is I ask for the awareness that I have it already. If there's something that I really want, in my life, and it's expedient for me, then I believe I can ask for the awareness to know that that's already mine. And that's how I try to live. I know that if my car ever gets to the place where it won't operate anymore, I know there will be a car available for me. It will come some way or another where either it's given to me or I will have the finances at that time to pay for it. And that's why I always say, I don't have $100 bill in my pocket, but if there's a requirement for it tomorrow or next week or whatever, I believe it'll be there. So, yes. Huh? You have one. So thank you, baby. You shouldn't have told me that.
It's my birthday, man.
I like to give them away. So the fire of the Logos is the illumination that burns away false identity. And that's our greatest problem, is a false identity, not knowing who we are. Fire is not wrath, but it's purification. It symbolizes this transforming power of this divine understanding. So when the men representing false beliefs gather the withered branches, it portrays awareness being drawn back into this refining flame of truth. False awareness cannot survive under the presence of the Logos. I mean, when you see who Father really is, and you see who you really are, there's no way you can live out a mistaken identity anymore. And Father, Elohim, breath, it's like I say, it's very hard to explain to people who's, uses the word God or Jesus all the time. But it's literally an essence inside of it that's every part of our cells, every part of our being, and it is the life of every living thing in the plant in the universes. That's pretty powerful. And I'm one with that. And you're one with that. We have that same energy. So verse 7 reveals the opposite state, abiding in rest, instruction when we dwell in the Logos. The opposite state of false belief, when we dwell in the Logos, we live in this, and revelation begins to flow without resistance. So what's the resistance to revelation? What you used to believe. The resistance to revelation is what you think is absolutely true, and it's really never brought you any help. It's your old religious belief systems and believing that you are a bad person because you did something. Well, what you did is not who you are, right? And what was done to you is not who you are. And I don't deny that. There are some bad things that have been done to people, and there's some people that have done bad things, but that's not who they are. And so he's not describing eternal punishment here, but this spiritual process. If one does not stay in a rest with me, it means if the awareness wanders back into self-effort and all that, thinking that the Logos life is obstructed, this awareness, in a sense, begins to wither. I think Kay Fairchild referred that to like a leaf of lettuce. Once you break it off, if you don't eat it very quickly, what happens? It just begins to wither away. So it needs to stay with the vine. If it stays with the vine, then it goes through its natural process of life, and it's beautiful. So when he says, if you stay at rest with me, he defines true discipleship, not external religion, but an inner receptivity to breath's voice. These breathed words are living vibrations of the Logos, and they plant seed truths within our awareness, and they unfold in wisdom, and they unfold in revelation knowledge. What does revelation mean? The disclosing, the unveiling. When the Bible talks about the revelation of Jesus, it's not about Jesus, it's about what Jesus came to teach. And they messed it up with all their translations. And then he gives a promise. You can ask to know anything, and it will be revealed to you. This is not permission to demand things, our possessions, or outcomes. It's the assurance that awakened awareness, when resting in the Logos, you will know what you need to know. Also, the word ask means ascertain and to seek and desire to know. The word worship means to ascertain, seek, and desire to know a thing. So to know anything is to see from Father's perception. And that's what we want. We want to see people the way Father sees people. We want to see ourselves the way Father sees us. We want to see the whole earth as the way Father sees us. And 2 or 3 places in the Bible, speaking of Father or Elohim, Ruach, breath, says, I see you in the end from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So in other words, the way it is today, Elohim, Ruach, breath sees it just the way it was. We're the ones that see it wrong, because our view has been skewed by religiosity. Okay, John 15:8-10. I feel like I'm going 100 miles an hour, am I? No. Huh? Nope. All right, okay. In this Logos understanding is the view and perception of Father, Elohim, made large. That's what glorify means. It makes larger. So it made large in your awareness that you bear great love for all people. Living your life in love shows you are my disciples. And again, this is my translation and explanation. And And also Elohim Ruach Breath, Father, has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in the same love without a cause, which is agape love. If you keep my prescription of love, see the word commandment that was in there? And also the word law, it's actually prescription. What's a prescription? It's a way of receiving things. So keep my prescription of love. You will stay at rest in my love, even as I have kept our Father Elohim's love and abide in agape love. I mean, that's all Jesus talked about, really, is love. Over and over. So in this Logos understanding, is the view and perception here. Glorified is not a flattery toward a deity, but it's the enlargement of divine perception and consciousness. I could say it this way. Over your years of studying, has your view of Father grown more and more and more? So that's the glorification that takes place. It makes it larger. You get to the place where you know that you're not separate, that you're one. You know that Ruach, Elohim, Ruach, breath, God, Father, whatever, is not something way out there somewhere. And it's not a power that you have to be afraid of. It's a source that's within inside of you, and it's nothing but love. So bearing fruit means manifesting love, not words alone, but visible life, a visible life of compassion. And compassion, if you're compassionate, you're loving, are you not? And every time Jesus brought health to somebody, brought their mental state back to the original state it's supposed to be, it said, and he had compassion, and he had compassion, and he had compassion. If he would have been like some teachers, he would have said, I'm here to teach you. I'm not here to do this. You know, and I've gone to places where people wanted me to function in the gifts, but I was coming to be a teacher. I wanted to teach them. They didn't need me to say, thus saith the Lord. I've had people call me years ago, not now, but years ago, and say, can you give me a word from God? Wanting me to give them a word from God. And I got a little smarty with a couple of them. I said, yeah, thus saith the Lord, do what I told you to do last time. But they laughed. But
Is that compassion?
huh? Well, that was a long time ago. But consecrated messengers, and you are been consecrated. Do you realize that? And some of you, I'm sure, already functioning as that. But a consecrated messenger is a person that has seen Logos truth and has heard Logos truth. That's why Jesus said, I don't do anything I don't hear Father say. And again, the reason he said Father is because those people could not understand Elohim, Ruach, breath. They knew Elohim, but they thought it was just a God. But he said it's seeing something, and it's hearing something, and it's knowing how to function out of what you see and how you hear. And more importantly, knowing how to treat others out of what you see and what you hear. So we are visible expressions of compassion. This is how others recognize a disciple. Not by religion, but by love expressed. So as Elohim Ruach has loved me, so I've loved you, Jesus acknowledged that his love is not self-generated. He said it flows from the same breath, the same animation of essence that's in you. It flows this way through me. So this is the eternal circulation of love from the source through this awareness expression. And so the word keep here means to preserve in your awareness what you're learning. Preserve this consciousness of love. Don't let something rob you of your love. There are people that I don't like what they're doing, but I still love them. And many times I hear, and we've heard about people doing really bad things in our life. And they, the world calls them evil. There's no such word as evil in the Bible. It always says bad. Yes, they're doing bad things, but they're my brother and they're my sister. No matter who it is, they're still my brother, they're still my sister, they're still a son of God. They're still a daughter of God. And they lost their way. They were never told who they were, or they were told the wrong thing and then identified with that. It's what they fed on. Whatever you feed on, that's who you're going to present yourself to be, right? As a man thinks in his heart awareness, not so is he, but so is his realization. And so I'm just telling you, we've got to learn to love people. And if you don't love, if you say, well, I can't love this person, I can't love this, then you need to feed on more of the Logos of the Word. You need more understanding.
Can we love from afar?
You can love from afar. That doesn't mean you need to let them hurt you or anything. But I'm not talking about I love their actions. I'm not talking about I love what they did. But there is this agape love that no matter what happens, I still realize there is a son and daughter of God. They're not presenting themselves to who they are. And I believe when people receive that love more and more and more, that changes their life.
They give it. They learn to give it if they receive it.
They learn to give it out. So Jesus defines fruitfulness not as a religious performance, but as love made visible. If I am visible spirit, if I am visible breath, then I am visible love. And I don't want Satan to blow my light out. You remember that song we used to sing, don't let Satan hide it under a bushel?
The light under the bushel or something.
Yeah, that song we used to sing, the light on the bushel. Because Satan is those thoughts, those false awarenesses. That's the Satan in a person's life. And we cannot let that blow our light out. We can't get hurt so bad. I'm not saying we can't allow ourselves, what I mean. We can't allow ourselves to be hurt so bad that hate becomes our source, right? So when we love without condition, we literally echo Father's love. When I love somebody, it's me echoing the love of Elohim, Ruach, breath. So this is the eternal current of the Logos love. It begins with a source. It flows through every person there is and everyone else who lives their life in love. The same breath that moved Jesus moves in us and flows through us. So Jesus said to continue in this same love. Love without a cause then is the highest expression of who you are. It has no opposites. It has no reason. It has no limitation. It's not fleeing. It doesn't come and go. When we continue in love, we live and flow out of this Logos life constantly. And guess what? What flows through you blesses you, right? If life is flowing through those tomato plants, then it's a blessing to those tomato plants. And they do what they're supposed to do, and they produce tomatoes. And so if you keep my prescription of love, then you stay in rest. This is not a command. It's an invitation. It's an invitation. And this prescription is the remedy, really, for all problems. So in closing, Jesus points back to his own abiding. He said, even as I have kept Father's love. He is saying, I have stayed in rest no matter what's come in my life, no matter what's happened, no matter what's been said about me, because they spoke very bad about him. I rest in the same breath awareness that I teach you about. His union with Father is the model, if you would, for the Logos. This passage teaches that true discipleship is only measured by love. It's not by your degrees. It's not by how much you went to school. I'm not against schooling, but if you're going to go to school, try not to find a religious place. Try to find a place that teaches the true Logos of the Word. If you can't find it, I told a gentleman the other day, I can't recommend any Bible colleges to go to today. I don't know any of them that teach the truth of the Word. But there are sources out there, resources like mine. I have hundreds of YouTube videos. Kay Fairchild has hundreds of YouTube videos. I was looking at her YouTube account the other day. I'm so proud for her. She has 4,400 subscribers. That's a lot, isn't it, for YouTube? I don't even think she realized how powerful that is. But we have those. We have books. I give books away free. I'm doing something right now that it popped in my head. But you know, when you go to Facebook, you have 9 pictures of people and your friends. Those are your top 9. I'm giving right now, every time one pops up new, I'm giving them the Metaphysical Understanding of the Song of Solomon. You know, so we want to bless people. We are givers. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with, has been a giver. We need to realize that it's much better to give than to receive. It doesn't necessarily mean money, but we can give things. We can give compliments. We can give love. That's the number one thing. And if it flows, then that's the proof that you're resting in Father and you're resting in who you are. The presence of the evil, it's larger. It becomes larger in our perception. The same breath that loved Jesus loves us all, and we remain in that. So as we've seen these verses, the true vine is the continual flow of the Logos life within us. Essence of Elohim is expressing through every branch awareness there is. And the husbandman, which is our divine mind, lovingly tends to our inner garden and lifts and cleanses every thought that no longer serves our growth. And I want to encourage you, if you have thoughts that come to you that no longer serve your growth, get off often by yourself and be quiet and be calm and know that Father loves you unconditionally and said, Father, I ask that you reveal something to me that will replace that. When you find something that will replace that, then that can't bother you anymore. And what would replace that? The truth. If you hear all the times that you're bad people, a bad person, then you need to find some of our teachings, or you need to let Father speak to you personally in your thoughts that you're perfect, you're altogether lovely. What you've done does not negate who you actually are. So to stay in the rest in this vine is to live from that awareness. No longer striving, no longer trying to produce fruit. You don't have to learn how to love because you already are love. You can just let love be your guide. And so the fruit is not fame, it's not position, it's not possessions, it's love without a cause. It is peace that cannot be shaken. And it's joy that remains when all else fades. In the midst of everything going on in this world, we can live in joy, we can live out of our love, we can live at peace. And Jesus' words remind us that spiritual growth is a living process. It takes time. I mean, guys, it's from when Father spoke to me in 1988 that he was going to make me a Jeremiah, like a Jeremiah, and put words in my mouth that I would teach, that would pluck up and destroy and tear down so that it could be built up. I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about. I say he, what Brett was talking about, but it took some time. I had to go through a long process of 88 to 96, learning about the Bible, 96 to 2014, studying the redemptive view, and then beginning to study living out of our resources, spiritual resources with a K, and no penal substitution. And then all of a sudden in about 2015, something like that, that's when I began to study and teach the metaphysical understanding of the Word. So it does take time. Some people may be just like that because there are some people that were not indoctrinated in religion. Mm-hmm. You weren't, right? Not a lot.
I was kind of.
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, what I always enjoyed is these other ladies that were coming for a while. Mm-hmm. I wish I could remember all their names. But when I would talk about not Moses, but yeah, one of them didn't know who Moses was. Another one didn't know who David was in the Bible. And I was flabbergasted. How could you live in America and not know that? But there are a lot of people that have not been indoctrinated in that kind of stuff.
She hasn't.
I know, and that's good because you don't have a lot of undoing that you have to go through.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. And so again, Jesus' words remind us that spiritual growth is a living process. And even he said, I go to learn more of Father. You didn't hear that last week, but when he said I was going to go away, he actually, when I translated it out, he actually said, I am going to go learn more, and I will not leave you teacherless. I will come back, and I will teach you more of what I've learned. And he did in the book of Acts. And then when he said, I won't leave you comfortless to the disciples, he said, Father will send many more comforter messengers to help lead you and teach you and guide you. But Jesus literally said, I'm going to go learn more of Father. And I explained that because the Bible says that he waxed strong in spirit. In other words, he wasn't born in contact with all that information. As he grew up at 1 or 2 or 3 years old, 4 years, he didn't know all this already. He learned. Mary took him to the scenes and they taught him, but he never left contact with the divine mind. That's why he was able to function out of who he was. And so he had great words to share with people. So I hope this blesses you today. George Watson, it's good Watson, it's good to see you. And thank you for all that come here. I haven't told this in a long time, but I know sometimes it's hard to take notes. A lot of people like to take notes. And if you're interested, I offer a transcript group, or I have a transcript group for a minimum of $10 a month. You'll get all my transcripts of everything I teach in a PDF file. So if you're interested, message me. My books are available. You can go to my webpage, www.drroyerichmond.com, and find everything. So God bless you. We love you. Have a wonderful day. My name is Roy Richmond. I love you. Go forth and love other people. Bye-bye.